singing along in the studio. It's such a wonderful sing-along song. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Paul Raffel, and I'm sitting in the studio with my two co-hosts here, Shelley Rugg.
Yes, hello.
Stephen Hurwitz.
Once again?
Once again. It's Thursday, it's noon. That means it must be Let's Talk. Call-in radio. This is where listeners get a chance to call in and give their opinions on subjects that affect us all. Could be local, could be national, could be international, could be global, could be whatever topic we choose. Ha-ha. And so you have the chance today to tell us your thoughts and opinions about immigration. Yes. So we'll start talking about that in a second, but let me just give you the numbers right away. 415-663-8492 or 8317 will get you into the studio. When you call in, hang on until you hear me say you're on the air, and then turn down your radio. Give us a name. Any name will do. And please, above all, watch your language. We're a live show, so keep it clean if you would. So, immigration.
I heard some language on KQD that would not be handled on this.
Yeah, hey.
Hey?
I guess they can afford the fine. Yes, actually, I heard somebody on this station yesterday morning, which was terrible. I was shocked, I say. Look at that. The levels are lower this morning. Would you mind, Shelley, have a chat about immigration?
You want to test the levels. Okay. How am I sounding, Paul? Am I here? Am I
Sounds
there?
pretty good to me.
Good.
Good.
So immigration, it's of course big news. It is the cause behind many tweet storms that are affecting us, that are coming down from the administration, from the White House. Racially motivated anti-immigrant sentiments, which are, of course, very popular again, as they probably always are. I don't know, human beings being what they are. We're always against people from other countries coming in and, here's the phrase, taking our jobs.
Yeah.
Actually.
Which is a myth, of course, and we'll get into that later.
Really?
So, immigration, thoughts?
You know, my first thought is that Trump, being who he is, has made it a subject that we're all thinking about. It's on everyone's agenda, but it was happening under Obama. It just was under the radar. People
what
were
was
really
happening?
the same thing. A lot of deportations.
Deportations,
yeah.
yes.
Maybe equal to or greater than what's going on right now.
See, he had greater numbers of deportations than Bush did before him. So, yeah, for sure. So, part of the thing is, every election cycle, both parties, because we have a two-party system, ridiculous. Both parties say, "Oh, we're going to push for sensible immigration reform." What does it mean? What would be a sensible reform?
I've been thinking about it.
Know.
I think the low-hanging fruit is the dreamers. I mean, that would just be easy to give them a path to citizenship.
Oh, they should be given a path. The Dreamers program. They're the ones who are
brought here as children.
But they weren't born here, but they were brought here.
Right, brought here as
kids.
children.
Yeah,
had grew up here, went to high school here, and many in the junior college here, and etc. And it seems to me that's just easy.
Well, easy
for me, from my perspective.
Well, I wouldn't mind reforming the situation where the families are being separated. To me, it doesn't make sense economically to have a situation where there's children that could be cared for by their parents. So that's one less thing to have to take care of. And instead they're putting him into a situation that's causing great emotional harm. And it's as if we don't see that harm We don't acknowledge that because it's not as tangible, let's say, as somebody dying, which has happened, or being, like in Auschwitz, nobody's being burned to death, but they're being gravely harmed.
Children in particular.
Especially the children and the parents, too. I mean, anybody in America, if they put themselves in the same shoes as these people, and the fact that these people are putting themselves in this situation because where they're coming from is horrible.
Yeah.
There's more harm. There's actual physical harm that they're trying to get away from, and then they come here, and now we're breaking hearts, we're breaking minds by doing this.
It is, of course, making a couple of corporations a lot of money because these are privately run compounds that they put them in. They are contracted out to.
And who contracted them?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we did, the taxpayers.
Well, yeah.
Through our elected representatives. Is there anything taxpayers can do about that? Yes, we can vote. Anyway. Sorry.
That was our last topic, right? Voting. Get out there and vote, people.
It's interesting because...
Have a little hope.
Because ICE is invading homes and... snatching up the breadwinners in the family. So there you have his wife, children, left here in the United States, and the guy that was out working and bringing home the bacon. Ooh, bacon. Bringing home the bacon, all of a sudden he's not there.
Well, yeah.
Or she.
Okay, so first of all, should we let's just get radical with it and say no more immigration? How about that? Would that be a solution to the problem?
It'd certainly be a solution to the immigration problem.
But then we'd still have people sneaking over the border, of course, borders, and our thousands of miles of coasts. Let's not forget we have thousands of miles of coastline in this country. The southern border is not
the only way in.
Problem.
Yeah,
I don't know right now what it is statistically, but in the past, immigration has been neutral, as many people have been leaving the country as have been entering the country. So there really wasn't this crisis that we're supposedly aware of today.
Right.
It's been a neutral situation.
Yeah. So all the millions of undocumented aliens who are they're all getting benefits and taking our jobs. Blah, 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 blah. Now, the same old story that's been told by every
well, we're leaving out the part
government
of the story where we're going into countries and causing harm.
Well, let's just say that Central America is this is the result of American influence over Central America for the past 50 years?
Have we been involved in Central America?
Oh, man. The memory's going. Anyway, let me just... we got an email from Mark Dowie who said, a few years back I wrote a profile of a Nicaraguan woman, single mother with 3 young children, 2 of them born in the U.S. She was nabbed by the immigration and deported with her children, although she had paid taxes every year she was here, worked tirelessly in her church, and never committed a single crime or misdemeanor. She was a house cleaner, and one of the houses she cleaned was occupied by a wealthy Canadian man and his French wife, both illegal aliens, and both large-scale drug traffickers. Wow. This is a good story. Neither of whom ever paid a cent of taxes in the U.S., and both their children were useless delinquents. They were all white, spoke perfect English, and all their American neighbors thought they were American. They're still here.
Now, there you go.
Now we're all wondering, who's he talking about? Thank you, Mark. It's always good to hear from Mark Dowie.
That's a perspective,
So decades, maybe a century, actually, of incursions into Central and South America, Central America mostly. I mean, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, all these places we've supported coups and taken out popular leaders because we thought they were communists, and the domino theory, well, the communists are coming. So the influence we have had has basically destroyed economies down there, plus NAFTA, which is sending, subsidized corn and grains and all
we have a large responsibility in
Central America.
Huge.
They come here because this is where jobs are. Nobody wants to leave their home. Nobody wants to risk their lives doing this. Nobody wants to risk being thrown into detention centers and having their families separated. I guess this is supposed to be a deterrent.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to risk that unless they're desperate. And,
right.
Okay, so do we take away the inscription on the Statue of Liberty? That's bring me your tired.
It seems like
poor.
it.
Should we do that? I mean,
at this point, that's how it feels.
What are solutions for this?
I can't quote it, but there is a second verse to the "Give Me Your Tired,"
and then
it's
send
a
them
little
back
different.
when we're done with
them. Interesting. It's interesting.
I think that's the gist.
They're also very selective as to who they're busting. Certainly, a lot of hotel workers are undocumented, and of course the people who are responsible for getting food to our table, many of them are undocumented.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing wholesale rounding up of agricultural workers. Although I have read about in the Midwest, they have had numerous raids, and all of a sudden the people in the communities are having a completely different perspective on it as they're...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because they were neighbors.
Neighbors,
they
workers.
They didn't necessarily know that they were illegal aliens.
All of a sudden there's just been
official.
a big a disappearance.
Yeah. Oh, they were so nice. Oh, no, we didn't mean them. Oh, too bad. There you go. We have a caller. Hi, caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
Good morning, everybody. It's MK.
MK.
I was
Hi.
talking to a friend of mine this morning who lives in Hawaii
Yeah.
and was married to a Russian woman for quite a long time. And I was telling him about your program and what it was going to be today. And he said, immigration is such an unnecessarily difficult subject. And he's a black person of color. I remember hearing the taunts of go back to Africa coming from people who also didn't originate from here and felt both the absurdity and hate from those words. Never thought I'd hear it from a president. His words I can understand coming from that man. What's really sad to me are the people trying to defend it, but no better. And then he says, I also remember how badly immigration folks treated both me and N when we applied for her green card. It was a ridiculous and humiliating process, and I completely understand why people try to circumvent it. They mostly are doing it out of necessity, not ill intent.
Right.
So that's, somebody who's been through the processes. And
we had this yellow peril, too. I just want to remember.
The yellow peril, yes.
What's that?
In the 20s, I think it was, there was this hysteria that...
people coming from Asia?
Yeah, Asians were going to overwhelm us, so they passed exclusion acts.
The Japanese in the 20th century, and it was, of course, the Chinese, Asian immigrants who were working on railroads and doing all the terrible work building this country. They were not allowed to own land. They were not allowed to stay.
Well, it's the same thing in Hawaii when the many Japanese and Chinese people working the cane fields and the rice fields. So anyway, it's a horrible, tragic problem. And just thought I'd share my little bit of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
That was very heartfelt little missive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thanks, MK.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, maybe we're more enlightened because earlier they enslaved people, immigrants. I mean, the Chinese were treated deplorably, and when you look back at the consciousness of American citizens, we're talking about them today, but it's been so bad.
Yeah.
Well, and the way we handle things causes people to hide out, causes them to go underground and sneak around, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was if as long as there's an underground economy, only paying cash. They're here. They're still paying. Maybe they're still paying. Some of them, most of them, I'm guessing, are paying Social Security
with no benefits of it. Yeah,
no benefit to it. Driving around without licenses and papers because, not in California. Is it California or just San Francisco? It must be California
and now New York.
They're giving driver's licenses now, so they don't have to run for it when the police are following.
And it's nice to have people who pass the test.
Well, yes. Could we do it now, Stephen? I don't know.
If you want to call in, the numbers are 415-663-8492 or 8317 to talk about immigration.
So in 1932... President Hoover essentially shut down immigration during the Great Depression as immigration went from 236,000 in 1929 to 23,000 immigrants in 1933. This was accompanied by voluntary repatriation to Europe and Mexico and coerced repatriation and deportation of between 500,000 and 2 million Mexican Americans, mostly citizens, in the Mexican repatriation.
Wow.
So it has been done before.
In a big
in our
way.
history. And there are all kinds of horrible acts about where, what's it called? The national origins formula. Oh, dear. Anyway.
You Americans.
I know. I'm an American. I was an illegal alien for a while, actually. Yes.
Well,
I was very lucky to get away with it and that they were not cracking down as badly as they are now.
Just a little public service announcement about ICE, that it's important to know that if the ICE comes knocking at your door, you do not have to open your door. If you open your door, they come in. They'll come in. But you don't have to open your door. They might have papers that they're waving in their hands saying, yes, we have a warrant. Well, you ask them, please slip it under the door so I can look at it. Because if it does not have the person's name on it and it's not signed by a judge, then it's not actually a warrant.
It's not a legal warrant.
No. And so you just need to stay calm and stand your ground and say, no, thank you. No. I will not open my door. And then, they go to places of business as well. And so business owners are not required to let them in to raid their employees.
Really? Wow, that's interesting.
Unless there's a warrant signed by a judge.
Okay. We have a caller. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Mia.
Mia.
Hi, Mia.
Wanted to remind folks, I couldn't hear the first part of your show, but Westmoreland Immigration Rapid Response Team.
Yes.
Did you guys cover that yet? Or
No,
I was
didn't.
just talking about, when ICE comes knocking at your door, what to do, and I learned about that through this rapid response team.
Yeah. So an email, if you want to get connected, Jorge at westmorelandcs.org. So that's JORGE at westmorelandcs, westmorelandcommunityservices.org. And you can volunteer in many different ways. Go into events. Sometimes people need rides to immigration cases in the city. And there are, events at the Civic Center and also a newsletter that comes out if you can sign up for that. So, and then the Rapid Response Team is the sort of like an ally that could be called in the case of an incident to basically be a witness and to record the situation. So, Jorge at westmorelandcs.org is a good way to start, or just drop in Westmoreland Community Services.
Great.
Yeah, and
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can sign up on the WhatsApp, and that way, you're in the group. So if somebody's got ICE knocking at their door, they send out a message, and then people can show up at their home just to observe the situation so that things don't go off kilter.
That's good to know. It's all good information. Glad somebody is out there helping with it, because how scary is that going to be when they do come? So there was an interesting article in the New Scientist from a couple of years ago about the myths about migration of all kinds, immigration. I mean, how the world's populations are going to migrate. And, of course, humans have been migrating forever. That's how we got here, isn't it? Yes.
It's just beginning.
That's how everyone got here, out of Africa. And all the arguments of anti-immigration people that they're taking our jobs and that they're taking money from us, they're taking taxpayer money, blah, 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 is all actually untrue. The studies show, they studied many countries, but they studied Europe in general and the U.S. They did some studies here. The 240 million people worldwide are international migrants. I guess I would have counted as that. Yes, I suppose so. And when this idea that they're bleeding money from the country and that they're taking our jobs, it actually doesn't pan out that way.
It's actually the opposite.
Yeah, they come in, they're increasing the consumer load, the consumer opportunities for goods, right? They are instead of native, let's call them native people who are born here, or citizens, instead of citizens' jobs paying less, they actually pay a little more. Instead of money being drained out of social service programs and all that sort of stuff, there's actually money flowing in. It's shown that millions of dollars are flowing in because of immigration.
Yeah, so what's all the fear-mongering about?
And, of course, flowing
right?
out. Of course, they're sending money back to their families and elsewhere.
You know, on the other
for
hand,
economies, it's a wonderful thing. Immigration is a fabulous thing.
On the other hand,
there's this guy who is a professor, and he's saying we should have no borders. We should just allow. I mean, that's what the EU has done now, and all the Brits whining about Polish carpenters coming in, taking our job. But no, it's been. I mean, that's what keeps the EU going. Is all this migration of skills and trades and all over that whole area. Mm-hmm. It's been good for the economy. This
business of undocumented people also enables exploitation of workers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when that's the thing. If it's underground, if people are hiding out all the time, they have
really no power whatsoever.
Yeah, anything that an employer wants to do to them can be done.
So it's hard to not see the situation that's happening currently as really targeting people with brown skin.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Because they're creating fear that, all of these people are going to come and take all our jobs, and when it's not true. Mm-hmm. So they must be benefiting in some way by doing that.
Who's this?
Whoever's pushing this agenda.
Well, they're getting power. They're whipping up the rather less discerning members of the population, because that's an easy thing to do. It's someone else's fault that you're out of work. It's not the fault
of the government.
It's not capitalists. It's not corporations leaving because there's cheaper goods and cheaper workers elsewhere. It's the fault of the brown-skinned guy right next door to you.
We're in a period right now of what they consider full employment when the unemployment gets down below 4%, and I think we're at what economists would call full employment. So it's not really an issue of all these available jobs that aren't being filled. But it does allow companies to keep jobs, keep paying low. It lowers the prices that companies need to pay because they're able to hire exploitative.
Well, so that I would have thought that as well. Apparently,
no,
that is not necessarily the case.
I'm glad I said that.
There was, again, another study in the EU, actually about Switzerland. So, it's a tiny country, but it's a non-EU member. The workforce grew by 4% from immigration, but there was no change in wages and employment for natives overall. Wages increased a little for more educated Swiss people who got jobs supervising newcomers, while some less educated Swiss people were displaced into different jobs.
I was in a hotel, though, last year. It was one of these big convention-type hotels. They're horrible. The woman that cleaned my room spoke no English, zero English. There's no way that this woman was here legally. I can't imagine it.
Oh, I don't know about that. Why?
She had no
because she didn't speak English?
No language skills whatsoever.
Well, I don't think that's required to actually come to the country.
Well, the hotel industry now has been complaining about ICE. So that might...
I'm sure there's
might be a
lot of
tell.
undocumented.
It might be a tell.
Of course, yeah. Service people everywhere. There's going to be a lot of undocumented workers there.
Yeah, it's been shown that they...
Including Trump's hotels.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. No hypocrisy there. Let's see. There is no evidence that immigrants crowd out U.S.-born workers in either the short or the long run. Natives instead capitalize on language and other skills by moving from manual jobs to better paid positions. Perry calculates that the immigration to the U.S. between 1990 and 2000 boosted the average wage by $5,100, a quarter of the total wage rise during that period. Immigrants are good for the economy.
I heard a story.
And good for the gene pool, I might say. My goodness, have we had enough of white people yet?
Uh-oh. And the number to call is 415-663-8492
White people are seriously
8317.
in the minority worldwide.
That's
true.
And we're the worst. Anyway, yes, please do call and tell us, what do you think? What solutions would be a voting impetus for you? If someone said, I have the solution to immigration, what do you think it should be? This is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in San Geronimo Valley, online at kwmr.org, on Horizon Cable Channel 47 locally, and there's a KWMR mobile app now available in the app stores. So, yes, go and get the KWMR app so you'll never be away from us. Media support for KWMR is provided by The Point Reyes Light, family-owned since 1948, providing local news every Thursday in print and online. Open Monday through Thursday in downtown Inverness with information on classifieds, subscriptions, advertising, and more at ptreyeslight.com or at 415-669-1200. Thank you to our underwriters and our members, our listener members, our calendar club members, and everyone who helps support this station. Little jewel that it is.
Very cool.
This certainly doesn't address our current issues, but I remember reading that Carter was meeting with, I think it was Chow En-lai, and he was complaining to him that the Chinese were not free to leave the country. They did not allow that. And Chow said, well, how many do you want? I could send 100 million right now.
Oh, my.
Well, yes. Well, there must be limits to how many can come in. Apparently, we're handing out. I mean, it makes it sound so easy. We're allowing about 700,000 new visas every year. That's just, I'm not sure if that's immigrant and non-immigrant. I have to do more research on that. Of course, I was looking at a video from Prager University, which is it's just a right-wing think tank that puts out these great little videos of. Anyway, they say the U.S. has the most lenient immigration system of the developed countries. Let's put it that way.
I think Germany at one time was recruiting immigrants, though. I don't.
Well, so was Australia.
So
interesting.
I think they had a labor shortage in Germany
to get a ship to Australia.
Aren't they? Isn't
it? The days.
Yeah, not
but
anymore.
Now New Zealand. So, for example, Australia is very hard to immigrate to, I believe.
Yeah.
And New Zealand, basically impossible. And why not? Because, it doesn't need a lot of people there. More sheep is what they need. The EU, I don't know. I actually don't know how difficult it is to get in anywhere else. It wasn't that difficult to get the initial visa that I needed, a visitor's visa that I needed, and overstayed, and then it wasn't all that difficult to get a green card, actually, for me. But then I'm a white Englishman.
I think it's a central issue for the rise of the right.
Yeah.
It's for a large population. There's fear-mongering around it, and it's enabled the right to Hungary, France,
Britain,
all around,
Brexit,
all around, and of course Trump has milked it to the nth degree.
36%. Here's another statistic. This is it was a great article, actually, the New Scientist article. 36%. Oh, I see. I lost it. Yeah, 36% of the world's current migrants, against the sort of the grain of the argument, is that they're all coming here to developed countries because they want to take advantage of our leniency and take all our money away and all our jobs.
And become consumers.
36% of the world's current migrants have moved from one developing country to another. From Haiti to the Dominican Republic, Egypt to Jordan, Indonesia to Malaysia, and Burkina Faso to Ivory Coast. So people just go where there are jobs. They don't all want to come here. We all think, oh, well, America, the shining beacon on the hill.
We're protected by two oceans.
Two oceans. So, of course, there's a land crossing to our south, which is the big problem. Should we build the wall? There you go. Give us a call if you think we should build the wall down there.
So what is a reasonable, a sane immigration policy?
That's my question.
I have presented that the dreamers are low-hanging fruit, and I think that if you gave the immigrant population, the Mexican population, or whoever, a path to citizenship, I think that's a reasonable way to handle the problem.
I know a couple from Belgium who they got pregnant and they had been coming here, off and on. They were going back and forth between America and Belgium. But they made a point of having their baby in America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now, there's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Should that be changed?
I don't think so. And personally, I think the 14th Amendment, is that what it is?
It is the 14th Amendment.
I certainly don't want to open up the 14th Amendment for modification. There are too many protections in that amendment to start messing around with it.
Yeah?
Well, look it up. You've got the...
You got the magic box there.
Well, so conservatives say, think tanks and others, say that, where was I looking? The Heritage Foundation, that's right.
Oh, we love them.
Yes, wonderful people. They are of the opinion that, and, it's just an opinion, and I happen not to agree with it. It's my opinion, not the opinion of KWMR, that the 14th Amendment, actually, the way it's worded is kind of nebulous, but they regard it as saying it doesn't apply to foreigners, because all foreigners, in the meaning of the actual sentence, owing allegiance to another country. All foreigners owe allegiance to another country just by being
a priori?
from that country. So, therefore, the child that happens to be born in Texas should not automatically become a citizen.
Well, there are people who do come to this country
Just to do that,
yeah.
of course. And
Makes sense to me.
And then the same video talked about the what's it called, the anchor, or the chain that goes on from there, the domino effect. Then they bring in their wife and the children,
I think Melania was
spouse and children.
I think that was
And the
her
grandparents.
MO.
And then the grandparents, cousins, and there are all these visas for just for
Isn't that what Melania did? She brought her parents?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
of course. But she's different.
Oh.
Yeah. She's
only slightly brown.
not from Central America.
Well, I wish some people
Some of the orange is rubbed off on her.
I wish somebody would call in that takes a position that's a little different from ours.
Oh, yes, it is quiet, isn't it?
Sorry.
The telephones are very quiet today. Do give us a call. 415-663-8492 or 8317.
Chirp, chirp.
That is a loud cricket. And again, and then refugees.
Yeah.
Do we open our doors to refugees, or do we say, sorry? Well, they're sending them back everywhere. Europe is sending them back to Libya. They're cutting. They're paying. Europe is now paying sort of militia along the north coast of Africa to intercept boats that are coming from North Africa to try and get to like Sicily and all that. And Lampedusa, I guess, is where they've been ending up because it's the closest point. They're intercepting them and taking them back. What about refugees? It's a UN charter, but do we pay attention to everything the UN does? I think not.
I mean, the whole situation is devoid of any kind of empathy at all.
Right.
And it's all about numbers.
For me, it's the easy part are people who are already in the country, who are productive citizens, which most are, and in fact, immigrants have a lower incidence of crime than the general population, which is also God.
Jeez. My co-host.
It's one of those
really
days.
is so professional.
Why won't it go off? Sorry.
Wow.
I thought I
Push the
turned
button
that
on the
off.
side.
I know. I thought that turned it off. My apologies.
What was I saying? Yeah, the people who are
crime
here.
is lower than the general population.
Yeah. Well, except the crime of driving without a license or no insurance or...
I think we're talking about...
Right. I mean... But among legal immigrants as well, there is a lower crime rate.
Yeah, this is criminal activity that is not associated with being undocumented. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they'll catch on. They'll assimilate. There'll be more crimes if they assimilate properly. Oh, this is the argument, right? They don't, immigrants in general don't assimilate. And they have too many children. And they take over the towns, and there will be Sharia law. And what do you think?
I think that the demographic argument has some there's some truth to it. I know in particular in Europe, you have the birth rate is 1.2 amongst the general population. It's highly educated. It's 1.2, and amongst Middle Easterners who are living in Belgium or wherever, for example, the rate is 6. So there is a rather a large difference between fertility rates between immigrants and the general population. But I think that all of that, the assimilation it's a 3-generation process. And if you look at it, you're going to find, I think we're finding that even right now amongst the Hispanic population, there is a huge number of children, second generation, who don't speak Spanish at all.
Right. So assimilation is a natural thing anyway.
It is. It's a process that takes place.
Unless they belong to some sort of cultish religion sect thing where they're only allowed to speak. You're only allowed to. The only thing you're allowed to read is the Talmud or something. I don't know. All that kind of stuff where they don't want to assimilate. They refuse to assimilate. It could be the Amish. Same thing. They didn't assimilate. We don't hate them, do we? We kind of think they're cute. Anyway, but assimilation happens, and to make the argument...
But not if you put fear in people and they need to hide.
If they're hiding, then...
Why would they want to assimilate? They can't.
Well, I think you can't avoid it because the first generation is essentially disconnected to the population because of language barriers. The second generation have foot in both doors. They speak the native tongue, and the religion is still strong. Ethnically, socially, it's still strong. And then the third generation, they might not speak the native tongue of their grandparents at all, and they're acculturated more so to the general culture.
And they're probably having fewer children than...
And demographically, they're having fewer children. They're integrated into the population. And so, that is the standard. Irish were... we didn't want them either.
Or Italians. Irish, Italians, Jews, didn't want any of them.
God,
we only wanted Germans.
Boy, the restaurants alone, we'd have so few choices. German food is not...
sausage and sauerkraut.
It's certainly not like Italian.
Give us a call if you have a good German recipe that you might want to suggest to us. 415-663-8492. We've got about 10 minutes. Give us a call. What do you think about immigration? What would... if a candidate were to come up with a sensible immigration policy, what do you think that would look like? Should we lower the number of legal immigrants? It's 600. It's about 700,000 now, I think. Here it is. This is a couple of years old. 675,000 was the cap. Which
each year is that?
Yeah, which included family-sponsored, which is spouse and children, and I think then it's all graded from there on down, all different relatives. Family-sponsored up to 480,000, so almost 500,000. Employment-based annual limit is about 140,000. So, and then, I didn't know this. There's a diversity visa, a green card lottery. If you come from a country from whence we do not see many immigrants coming, such as Lithuania, I don't know. You get in and you get in under the diversity visa program, which is about 55,000 people. Which is an interesting, I don't know who came up with that, actually. I should have looked into that more. Diversity visa, allowing people in from countries that don't
normally
emigrate here, from people who don't normally emigrate here. That's kind of interesting to mix the pool a little bit. If someone from Ivory
Morocco,
Coast,
perhaps Morocco doesn't fit in.
Well, yeah, apparently so. I mean, there's a whole list of Azerbaijan.
You know what's going to be very interesting is that traditionally, when we've been fighting foreign wars, we have accepted into the United States native-born population who have worked for the United States military during those wars. Had a huge population of Vietnamese accepted in here because of the Vietnamese War, and now we got Afghanistan. It's going to be very interesting to see whether our arms are open like they have been in the past.
Well, there were stories of people not being allowed in, who were working as translators, and which sounds innocuous, but they're actually on the front lines, and everyone in their town knows who they are. And when the troops leave,
it's going to be bad.
They were doing that with like Iraq and Libya, and they were not allowing them in because they're from Iraq and Libya, and they're going to take our jobs. So more safeguard, more barriers, more walls, more rules, shut down immigration for a while till we see what the hell's going on. I think that was the phrase he used. Or more lax, or do we just kind of let everyone just flow across borders and back again? Just because for one thing, just because someone crosses the southern border or the northern border or comes in on the coast, and works for a while and sends money back home doesn't mean they're going to necessarily stay. As you said earlier, there are people leaving all the time as well.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the children, of course.
The children.
And part of my program would be to get those children out of there as quick as possible.
These are the separated children.
A lot of them have family members in the United States that would welcome them. And they're not allowing that to happen. And then there are children that have no connections. I think they should be immediately worked into the foster child programs and get the ones who do have family moving. I read something, and maybe fake news, that they were asking parents, mothers, to take a DNA test before they hand a child over to the mother.
They obviously did not keep very good records at all. It's so disturbing, really. It's.
That was the one thing you can say about Nazi Germany. They sure kept records.
Oh, dear.
If they took your child away, they could tell you where that child was and how it was killed.
Was is the operative word.
But no, they didn't. They didn't care.
It's so negligent,
they just
how they've handled this.
And can I just say that, yes, it's a terrible policy, but there are people on the ground, the officers, who are doing this stuff. Who are we employing in these?
Boy, that's another question.
In the Border Patrol. I mean, how much lack of empathy can you have before...
are you aware of the secret...
Yeah, how can you do that job?
There's a secret Facebook page. Are you aware of that?
Oh, yeah, for Border Patrol.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there.
Horrible stuff.
If you have people working there who see these people in the cages as less than, that they don't matter.
Yeah.
They
kind of have to, don't they, to do that?
Or could they all just...
Is that the only job that's available in southern Texas, Arizona?
No toothbrush, no mattresses.
But that's nothing. It's human engagement that's missing.
Yeah.
Nobody is providing actual care. You don't just hand a 1-year-old a toothbrush. You don't say change your diaper to an infant.
And take away the blanket when they don't shut up. Don't stop crying.
The New Yorker had an article about the significant effect that something like this, taking a child away from their parents, has on their psychological makeup. It's significant.
It's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
To be sure.
America. As you were saying earlier, immigrants, the myth is that immigrants bring crime to our cities and towns. Although incarceration rates are highest among young, low-income men, and many immigrants arriving in the U.S. are young men with low levels of education, incarceration rates among young men are invariably lower for immigrants than for their native-born counterparts. This is true across every ethnic group, but the differences are especially noticeable among Mexicans, Salvadorans, and Guatemalans, who constitute the majority of undocumented immigrants in the United States. Even in cities with the largest immigrant populations, such as New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami, violent and non-violent crime rates have continued to decline.
So this isn't just a lie that the president has perpetrated. This is a major policy that it's been a fundamental underlying his and it's false.
Mm-hmm. It's all false, yeah. It's just easy to whip people up. You know, those brown-skinned people are coming. And they're going to change America. Well, you know, looking at what's happening, perhaps it's time for a little change. But what would be a sensible change? We still don't know. I still don't know the answer to it.
I would start with, of course, you know, we were talking about the families in cages. I would start by creating family cage. If we're going to put them in cages, put them in as a family. The separation thing is too much. It's going too far. You know, you can put them in a holding cell, but not separating. It's too much harm. Well,
I think under the Obama administration, they, I think they call it catch and release, which we do with fish, by the way. So were released into the general population pending their immigration hearing. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a difference from what's happening today.
And the rates of attendance at those hearings was actually pretty high. They actually did come because it was worth their while to come and attend the hearings and try to get some legal status. Whereas, you know, the story is, oh, well, they all skipped out and they're now living in... Right? And I'm looking at a site right now. The Heritage Foundation. Thank you so much, the Heritage Foundation, for your
What are they expecting you to do with Dreamers? You've got somebody perhaps that has never been in Mexico in their life.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go drop them off in central Mexico City and say bye? It's like a prisoner, here's $50 and out you go?
Our president just said go back where you came from, and that was to three U.S.
to
citizens.
Minneapolis.
Well, 4 U.S. citizens, 3 of whom were born here.
Go back to Minneapolis.
It's setting up this country for human rights violations, and yes.
What a mess.
So this is why, harking back to last week's show, it may be this time, even if you don't normally vote, maybe it's time to lend some support to politicians who are slightly more empathetic about other people and who would stop this nonsense that's happening on the southern border.
That's what I find the most disturbing aspect, that Trump is who he is, but you've got you have a Republican Party who vote in lockstep with very little discussion or complaint.
Really disappointing, isn't it?
I find that shocking, personally.
The party of Abraham Lincoln, as they're so fond of pointing out, is, they're in lockstep, and that conjures up images that are only too apt, in lockstep with the leadership, because the official line is we don't want to agitate our base.
Well, also because Trump has, the bully that he is, they feel that he has this the ability to essentially destroy you politically, and he's willing to do that in his own party if you cross the line.
And that line is
pretty ugly.
It's pretty close to him.
Well,
what is it? 24 people from his cabinet now because they talked back to him or told him he might have the wrong idea. Anyway.
Dear. Yeah, so hang on to hope, people.
Hang on to hope.
And vote. even if you think it's not going to help, do it anyway. Is it going to hurt to vote? Probably not.
Certainly not in most of California. Other states where it's pretty hard, they're trying to shut down all that. But that's story.
Take it even further. Get more involved in your local government. If they're doing things to make it so that you can't vote, then find out about it and work to change it.
Or render your vote meaningless because of gerrymandering.
Help defend your local immigrant population.
Definitely.
They lend all kinds of things to our area.
They've even sent back soldiers, right?
Yes.
They're
right.
sending back soldiers who were hoping this was a path to citizenship. Yep. How about that? Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. This was Let's Talk, and KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. And we'll be back next week.